Hello, I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. Today I'm speaking with Veronique Barbalet. She is a research fellow at the Humanitarian Policy Group in London. Hello, Ms. Barbalet. Thank you for joining us on UATV.
Thank you very much.
You just were in Donbass about 9 months ago, correct?
Yes, that's right.
What were your observations? What did you see? What did you find?
So I was there doing some research, looking at how different volunteer groups and what we are calling non-traditional humanitarian actors were contributing to the humanitarian effort, responding to the conflict in eastern Ukraine. And it was very interesting and very extraordinary to see how much ordinary citizens in eastern Ukraine had taken it on themselves to go and help those affected by the crisis. Unfortunately, there remains huge issues with being able to help those Ukrainians that are still on the other side of the contact line in territories that are not currently controlled by the government. And there's a dire need of humanitarian help over there.
What is it going to take to get more humanitarian help to that side?
It's a very difficult situation at the moment. Basically, the people who are in control of that territory, the armed group that is in charge of that territory, in control of that territory at the moment, are refusing to allow international, national, and local humanitarian actors to go and help those in need. And I think at the moment it would really require a mix of political, economic, and diplomatic incentives to really shift the position of these armed groups currently in control, but also those external states. And here, of course, Russia comes to mind, to try and shift their policies and push them to allow humanitarian aid to go through and reach those people that need that help desperately.
What would be an example of some incentives that Russia, that the West could provide?
Well, there are sanctions, economic sanctions in place at the moment. And I think this needs to continue, and there needs to be a stronger message, be it from the United Nations, through the Security Council, from the European Union, or from countries like the United States. And there needs to be a very clear signal and strong signal that what is currently happening in eastern Ukraine and the lack of support and facilitations on the parts of those that are in control of that territory to support humanitarian aid is unacceptable. It needs to be a clear message, and I think at the moment there's been more of a somewhat a non-clear message from those countries, in the sense that it seems that other priorities that are taking over what is happening in Ukraine. And because Western governments are involved in negotiations with Russia over other conflicts like Syria, sometimes it feels like the Ukraine question takes a bit of a backseat.
So essentially, other countries are not taking a harder line towards the situation in East Ukraine against Russia because they're negotiating in other conflicts.
Yeah, I think because it's complex and the diplomatic world is complex, and we need to understand that complexity and make sure that we don't simplify the current situations. But definitely it feels that more can be done now. There's been a ceasefire agreed, and that ceasefire has been violated again and again and again, and yet it doesn't seem that there is a cost for those violations. And I think having a more sustained and a more coherent approach to ceasefire violations in the first place would really help. The international community is there, the OSCE, the United Nations, there are loads of actors involved, but it doesn't seem that it's reaching the right result. So it's time now to increase the cost of violating the ceasefire agreements and increase the cost of not helping and supporting the delivery of humanitarian aid.
You wrote that right now it's it's a frozen conflict, and then Putin wants it to continue to be in a frozen conflict. He doesn't want to resolve it. Well, why wouldn't he want to resolve it into a situation where it's favorable to him? Why leave it frozen?
I believe that's a way of maintaining some pressure on the region. I I'm not sure whether Russia is necessarily wanting to see a new independent state coming out of those territories currently under the control of armed groups. And I think the international community is now extremely committed. It has been and will continue to be committed to the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. The question today is about finding an agreement, a peace agreement, halting the violence and the fighting, which seems to have increased over the last few weeks, and allowing this much needed humanitarian help to come through.
I don't know if your research has taken you to Crimea, but how bad is the situation in Crimea, the human rights abuses there?
No, unfortunately, the research I've been doing has not focused on Crimea, so I wouldn't be able to comment on this.
Do you think you wrote that it's at risk, the situation in Donbass is at risk of becoming a forgotten conflict? Do you think it's already at that point, it's become forgotten?
I think not yet. I think the situation a few months ago seemed to have stabilized, and it felt that there was less attention towards it. It is not a traditional humanitarian crisis, as as I'm commonly researching. It's in the middle of Europe, and in some way that doesn't help bringing more attention to it. I definitely think that more attention should be brought to what's happening. We have today a conflict in the middle of Europe that's affecting millions of people. And there are people in Europe today that do not have enough food, do not have access to proper shelter, or are unable to heat themselves in the middle of winter. And that is just unacceptable. Unfortunately, currently in the world, there are many different crises that are very complex and complicated. And the humanitarian system is being torn to respond to all these different situations.
How much longer do you think the situation has until it does become a forgotten conflict? I don't want you to maybe put a definite date on it, but how much longer is there?
That's really difficult to say. And I think the issue today is really not just not letting it be a forgotten conflict, but about resolving it, about moving the situation forward. For all of those people that have been, the millions of people that have been affected by this crisis, I think it's about not allowing the conflict to go on, whether it's forgotten or not. And there really needs to be a solution for those people, those citizens, those Ukrainians that are affected by this.
Well, thank you for joining us, Ms. Barbalet. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I'm Alex Gupta with UATV. I was speaking with Veronique Barbalet. She is a research fellow at the Humanitarian Policy Group in London. Thank you very much.